I did that thing where like I pussyfooted through the first part, which made it even more difficult because anyone who rides on gravel knows that slower is more difficult. Moxie, Greg, and I are riding around the world to raise $100,000 for the nonprofit Girl Up. We're donating 10% of Ruffly sales to the fundraiser and posting a new episode every week. It's a big dog on two wheels adventure for girls' empowerment. So follow along and please lend your support. The stretch from Eagle Plains to about maybe 50 kilometers from Fort McPherson, there was a stretch that was a little bit rough. It looked like they were putting in new like bedrock. And the first part was really tough for me. I like stopped before it because I saw the big rocks. And I looked at Craig, I'm like, now what? And so eventually I did. I stood up and I went with speed, had a little wobble, took a minute to take a breath, and then continued. And I got through that.
Narrow streets and dusty roads I've lingered on for far too many years. I wandered down the city, taking pity on myself through my fears.
We've got this really nice campsite. Like, look at that lake. It is Luna Laguna color. Moxie has already tasted it, and she seems to have given it paws up, so we're happy about that.
We are going to set up camp and make a hot meal because it has been a chilly day throughout.
The weather is supposed to still stay nice, even though it looks like there's huge storm clouds around. So I'm still crossing my fingers for good weather. And now we are going to have some vegan vindaloo with some rice. That's what's on our meal plan for tonight.
So Jessica and I just had a massive relationship tiff that basically was all her fault and is like the definition of poor communication. What we have here is known as Standard Operating Procedure, also known as SSDD, same shit, different day. Let's recap. She asked me for some water.
As you're watching me cook.
As she was cooking, and in her specific words, she said, "Can I have some water?" So I took the canteen and I went to the dromedary and began to fill it.
To fucking do that.
We have mummified Jessica, who is basically just a mouth, and she uses it well and often. And so she starts yelling over me.
No, I said, Greg, the water.
The water, and I said, I'm filling it. Jessica is never happier in her life than when she's mummified in her sleeping bag and her arms and legs are both broken and in total disuse.
I didn't need you to fill the whole thing. I just needed a little bit.
So, and then she proceeds to do like the smallest little squirt like that. Her mouth is perfectly functioning and it never fails because I am the last one to come into the tent that she has forgotten something. So basically what we're dealing with is a failure to tell me that all she needed was a little bit of water and quickly.
Me trying to reconstitute the rice, and all I needed was a little bit of water to give it some moisture.
Believe me when I say I was not watching you try to reconstitute the rice. And I hear from the mouth, I forgot one thing. So basically I won that one and I was the aggrieved party and I was abused by being yelled at. And Jessica loses.
Moxie likes to hang out with me when we're in the tent so that she can have a nice warm place with me.
And then next to her, slowly snoring like a chainsaw, is Moxie, who was so pooped out after some fetch this evening that she could not be obliged to take her riding harness or her jacket off. In fact, Jessica tried, that is, just arms Jessica. Legs Jessica stopped working long ago. Arms Jessica tried to get all of Moxie's equipment off and got some teeth.
If you like what we're doing, here's how you can support the GoRUFFLY Around the World adventure. You can donate to our Girl Up fundraiser, become a Patreon supporter, purchase Ruffly gear for your dog and everyone you know, and of course, like this video and subscribe to the channel. Thanks so much, and now back to the adventure. So while Greg is out there, I've been in here pulling the data off of our GoPro cards and off of our phones.
Final campsite status report. I have moved our bikes to the lake side of our tent to provide a wind block. The Tillamook's have been positioned between the two wheels to shore up weaknesses in our defense because the wind is picking up some coldness and smacking our tent right broadside.
We have about like 2 days worth of cars, maybe 3 days, depending on how much filming we do, available on all these like different little micro USB 64 gig cards.
I've taken the very important precaution of putting pieces of the rock that's here, and I have propped them up so that a bike does not topple over and strike us as a bear attack in the middle of the night.
But it does require us to stop during our riding days and pull the data off of it so that we have free cards. So that's what I'm doing in the warmth and safety of my tent.
Now, very least, in case the Loch Ness monster type creature leaping out from this lake, we are defended by our bikes, which should give us ample time to scatter while hopefully Moxie gets eaten while Jessica and I can run away.
I'm getting that done so that we have cards available for filming this muddy adventure on our way to Fort McPherson.
Started drizzling last night just after we got into the tent, probably about 11 o'clock. So we've got a somewhat muddy, boggy mess up here that we're going to be probably paddling the bikes through.
So the stretch out of our campsite there was a muddy, slicky section there. So I just paddled it through. Are my tires getting dumped?
Not yet. While it's not really raining at this point, there is a lot of mist, which is, of course, carrying all the moisture.
We do have this downhill now to get back onto the main road, which I'm a little anxious about. But same thing, I'm just going to take it slow, and hopefully my tires don't get all gummed up.
So I do certainly enjoy a campsite bath before the rough and tumble day gets started.
I hope that the rest of the Dempster is not like that. We did see the sun peek through, so hopefully it'll help dry it up.
So I did a bucket bath, and because we have a muddy ground here, I had to improvise a little bit so that I wasn't slopping around in the mud like a pig.
It wasn't horrible, but you know, that always gives a little bit of a scare when you have that slide.
I came up with what you might consider to be a bit of an anal or maybe prissy approach, but it was quite effective and I'm very pleased with it. I created myself a mosaic bathroom floor. There's almost a little bit of art to it. Not really, but almost. Rainy, wet morning, and we have reached the, first ferry?
Yes.
There are 2 ferries. We've reached the first one.
We made it to Fort McPherson. We came to gas up.
Are you being shy?
Moxie. Hey. Moxie, leave it.
Where are you from?
Now we are on our way up to Inuvik. It's not been really nice weather. We actually had rain last night a little bit and it's been misting here.
A lot of mist, some drizzle, little bit of mud on the road.
The road has been pretty decent. Where we camped was a little bit muddy, but in general, the Dempster's been in really good condition. I can't complain too much.
So we kept our speed down. We were like second gear. We were doing about 35, 40 kilometers most of the time. And then all of a sudden, a little bit of sun peeked out.
For the next few days, though, it's supposed to be really nice and sunny. So hopefully this is just going to blow over and we're going to have some nice weather leading us on for our next wild camping spot tonight.
She's just been laying there this whole time. Moxie, can you at least sleep? Can you sleep it, maybe?
Okay, Greg, get on your bike.
We reached Fort McPherson early this afternoon. We pushed on. We had 2 ferry crossings, one to get to Fort McPherson and then the other one after Fort McPherson. We are about 50 kilometers out from Inuvik, and the conditions got pretty muddy.
The ground ended up getting all muddy like it is back here. You can see all of that. And it just got a little bit slick. So we rode for like, I don't know, 10-15 minutes. And by then it was already getting late. It was already 6 o'clock. We'd been riding all day. So we decided to try out this campsite.
And as it turned out, just within a couple kilometers, there is a territorial campsite.
And I don't think you have to pay. I didn't see anything.
And there is this like pagoda or whatever. And so we just yoinked it. The moral of this story is that if you're not going to be wild camping and just kind of get away from everything, then go for like the most luxurious option possible.
Today it's supposed to be a nice day. I'm not really seeing the nice day part of it yet. It did say this afternoon and it's only like 10 o'clock, so.
The rain has broken, espressos are being brewed, and there is the tiniest sliver of blue sky.
The goal is to get to Inuvik, and then from there we will go up to Tuk. I am fingers crossed the road is nice and I'll be able to do it. I had a few little scares along this first stretch. The mud really got me at the beginning. And I think it's because I still had in my memory about the night before at that stretch going into the campsite where it did start getting really slippery. I was losing my nerve a little and I was feeling like I needed to stop. And so this morning when we started, I still had a bit of that because the road looked similar still. It was drier, but it still was slick. So I had a little bit of a little freak out at the beginning.
This morning's 50 kilometers were wet. They were muddy in some sections, a little bit squeegee.
And then another freak out when the big gravel came during the construction area.
Worst of all was the road construction part, where they had blasted water onto the road and then they had all this aggregate.
But what I realized is I need to actually stop. When I feel like it's getting overwhelming, it's better for me to just stop for a moment and like just take a break. It's just like for like a minute. Stop on the side of the road. Moxie doesn't need to get down. I don't need to get off the bike. I just need to like take a minute, compose myself, and then I can continue. And I did that 2 or 3 times and it really helped because I think what I had done in the past is I would just keep going. And even though I was feeling really anxious, I would just try and push through to get through it. But that's when the falls happen. That's when the mistakes happen.
There is a clear difference between gravel and aggregate.
But if I stop right before that and I take a moment, then I prevent myself from going down and having issues.
The gravel, unless it's really deep, you know, you kind of glide through it. You get a little squeegee, but you get through it.
So I'm going to have to remember that as we go up to Tuk.
The aggregate is like tank buster stuff.
We met this lovely lady, Tess.
She described living in such a small, remote community. In a lot of ways, it kind of struck me like when we used to live in Africa.
Yeah, I think it's a similar thing where they probably stay for a number of years and they do their thing and then they probably go somewhere else. She's been here for about 2.5 years, but has no real intention to leave just now. But it really depends on who is living in the community as well, like because you'll have different people coming through, transients. It really depends on how you get along with them and or what that feels like to just have a nice community.
Yeah. We have reached Inuvik and the community greenhouse hydroponics. Is that how I say it?
Tess told us about the greenhouse in Inuvik. And so we're going to go and check that out because I love to garden. So this will be a nice way to see what they've been doing way out here.
Moxie, of course, did great. I mean, she's just an amazing co-pilot. I mean, does everything that she's supposed to do as a co-pilot.
My hands have been really hurting me, and I thought it was because I had my heated grips on high, because I love the heat that comes off of those things. So I don't put it on like the pussy one, I put it on like number 2. There is sunlight basically 24 hours during the summer. So I thought, well, even though it's a shorter season, you should be able to grow. But she did also remind me that there is permafrost here, so nothing will really grow in the ground. So you'd need raised beds. Oh, wow. It's so warm. So I thought my hands were just getting hurting from all of the extra heat. But now as I look at it, they are like fully calloused because I've been like gripping my handlebars as I've been standing because I haven't had much practice doing it for this long of a period of time. She said that they do have like a community greenhouse where you can like, I don't know if they rent the plots or what the deal is, but you can see these are the market plots. So this is the stuff that they're selling. It's in the residential schools arena. Considering I was doing all of that gardening in Guatemala where it's so easy to grow stuff, but this is going to be a bit of a different sort of growing in the north. So I've created these calluses that actually are a little bit painful. So it's time to like have a little bit of a break off of the bike just to see if these can harden up for the last stretch up to Tuk. We decided to stay a night here in Inuvik because it is not sunny yet and we're waiting for the road to dry up a little bit before we make the trek tomorrow to Tuk.
That's what you get when you leave your kibble unattended.
We saw some riders who came back and said that the first and the last 20 kilometers were really muddy. Some of them had to stay overnight because they didn't want to turn back today or yesterday when it was raining because the road was so bad. So I want to just give it one more day to dry up so that I can feel a little bit more comfortable. I got a little bit anxious today with some of the riding. So I think it'll be a nice way to just sort of relax today and then be geared up and ready to go tomorrow.
That is a piece of the Dempster that I have collected in my bash plate underneath the bike.
Look at this thing.
Along with a bunch of other pieces.
Especially because the place that we're staying at is a territory park and it was like $23 and it has hot showers, which is going to be great. And I haven't had a shower in how many wild camping days have we done in a row? How many? 5 nights. 5 nights of wild camping. So as much as I don't love to admit that I've been wearing the same clothes, it'll be nice to have a hot shower and just sort of like take the day, take it all in. We've been sort of going hard at it these past 5 days so that we can get up there, camp at the ocean, and then turn back around and continue on across Canada. Hi guys, thanks so much for watching. I hope you really enjoyed the episode. We're finally almost at the Arctic Ocean. And you know, everything has been leading up towards this. And we just have that last stretch from Inuvik to Tuk, the hardest, supposedly the hardest stretch, where it's got like 4 inches of gravel, at least that's what people tell us. And it's supposed to be the most challenging section of the Dempster Highway. And you've seen I've handled the Dempster pretty well, I must say, so far. But this last stretch is the hardest part, and that's what's been on my mind throughout this whole ride, about how am I gonna handle that last stretch. But it's all down to this moment. And you know, in my own journey of everything sort of outside of the video series, I'm sort of at the same moment in time. You know, you guys have seen that we do these videos, we put them out weekly, and at the end I come out and I do my chat for you guys, and I share some behind the scenes information or give you some tips and tricks that I've gleaned from my time on the road and traveling. And, you know, for those of you who actually watch through the whole video, you know that I do these all the time. And this time it's a little bit different for me because, you know, I feel like I'm at the precipice, and I just wanted to share with you sort of where I'm at right now. So if you've been paying attention, you'll see that our YouTube channel, our Instagram channel, everything has finally been growing. And as much as I dislike that social media has to be an indicator of success, It is in this case because increased visibility for us means that we're going to get more donations for Girl Up so that we can reach our $100,000 goal. It's also going to help us sell GoRUFFLY gear, which is what is fueling this adventure, and it's also helping us support the indigenous women in Guatemala who make the gear. And it's also telling sponsors that, you know, this is something worth getting behind and supporting. So yeah, as much as I don't love that like social media numbers mean something, they do. And this has been a labor of love. Doing these videos weekly while we've been on the road, like 4 days out of the week we're riding. We're also managing GoRUFFLY so that we can get cockpits out and gear out to everybody. We're doing our social media. Like, it's just Greg and I. And so it takes a lot of effort, but it's something that we have really enjoyed, being able to share with you all about what it's like to travel with a big dog on the back of a motorcycle through all of these different places. And maybe these are places that you're never going to get to. Maybe it's places you dream of. Maybe it's places you never want to set foot in. But it brings something a little bit different into your lives. And, you know, I just wanted to say thank you to all of you who have been watching and supporting us throughout this journey. Like I said, we're sort of at that moment where finally things are on an upswing. We're growing. We're out there and people are taking notice. And it's all because of you guys are watching our videos, you're giving us comments, you're telling us what you like, what you thought was funny, what questions you have for us. All of that helps. And I just wanted to take this moment now as we're on our way to the Arctic Ocean and as things are finally heating up for us to just say thank you. Thank you very much. I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Next week is going to be a really fun one, so you got to make sure that you are subscribed and that you tune in for next week's, because you're going to sort of see the progression of, you might have been watching from the beginning of the series and you know how we started in Guatemala, but there's a bit of a backstory to it, and so we're going to share some of that in next week's episode, so make sure that you guys tune in. And don't forget to follow us at GoRUFFLY on Instagram and Facebook. Our Instagram posts are sort of like mini blogs for me. I get a chance to really share my thoughts about all the things that I go through as a woman rider, as somebody who rides with their dog, as somebody who has an imposter syndrome, all of the issues that I deal with. I take a moment and I write it down and I put it there on Instagram. So if you're interested, go and take a look. And if you do want to support us, we also have our Patreon where you can go and you can give us a donation and you get some additional content and see some more stuff about us and about our journey. And we would really appreciate it if you are able to and you'd like to support us that way as well. But thank you so much for watching, guys, and we'll talk to you soon.